Hello! Again, I'm still too slow with making these videos, but it doesn't matter. So, in my recent video, in my last video, I said that I was back at school and we had some exams that they just ended last week. And this is so, I don't know if it's exciting, just exciting or also strange because let me just say, because I'm gonna divert and I'm gonna ADHD all over the place again. Our curriculum, our history curriculum, this grade or this year, this semester, however, is about ancient Egyptian history. And my God, I love ancient Egypt, and it's so exciting, it's so beautiful, and it's kind of sad because on one hand I love our ancient Egyptian history, and on the other hand I'm sad that we lost it. We lost our identity and our language, and I wish we could restore them. But and I do believe we can. Like, we have enough knowledge and resources right now to restore a part of it, and I'm pretty sure if we actually, like, if we really tried, we can restore it. I mean, we know how to read a lot of it, but we don't know how to pronounce it, how ancient Egyptians used to talk. But I do believe, like, how do I say this? Like I said, I believe we can. We have the ability to restore it, but I don't think we want to, because this is a very frustrating thing. On one hand, you have this thing about our, like, current Egyptians. We lost our ancient Egyptian language about 2,000 years ago, which is not that long ago compared to how long we've been speaking the ancient Egyptian language and how long we've been using it. We've been using it for a very long time. Almost like, since 3100 BC or something like that, until 2,000 years ago. So I'm not sure, like, how many years that will be. 3,000 years or 4,000 years? I'm not sure. Because or is it 7,000 years? Like, I'm not sure. I'm not that great at math, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that it has been, after all this time, the ancient Egyptian language is still how do I say this sentence? The longest used or the longest spoken language. Because it's been used for a very long time, for almost maybe 3,000 years. I'm still not sure what the number is, but it's a very long time. So it's been lost for 2,000 years, and we've been speaking Arabic since the Islamic, what do I call this? Islamic occupation or Islamic movement? I don't know. But since the Middle Ages, we've been speaking Arabic, and yet we still have difficulty pronouncing some sounds like dhal, for example, and dha, which you could say is just a thicker version of dhal. And there are other examples like this. It almost feels like, for someone like me, it almost feels like, because I can speak English now and I sort of can get over these obstacles with pronunciation sometimes, and sometimes I still make a mistake of, for example, saying that as za, and then I correct myself. But we've been speaking Arabic for a very long time. This is not like English. I taught myself English, but I've been speaking it for a while, like 4 or 5 years now. At the beginning I wasn't that great. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that Egyptians are supposed to, like, we're supposed to be able to pronounce those Arabic syllables, all of them, but we're not really using all of them, especially with see, I just did it again. with dal, for example, or that syllable, that sound. We still have a difficulty with it, and it makes it seem for someone like me like our ancient Egyptian dialect is still stuck in our DNA, and it's stubborn and it refuses to go away. And I believe if we lean into that, along with the other resources that we have, like how we already can pronounce some other ancient Egyptian syllables like kha and jim. Anyway, that's one of the things that I'm losing myself in the language. The ancient Egyptian is very complex, I get it. And I do believe that if we actually do successfully restore it, we will need to create vowels instead of the way we used to write the language, because it was very complex. Or we could still do the very complex thing because it's much more interesting and it's much more respectful to our ancestors as well. I don't think we are supposed to, because our ancestors were geniuses. That culture, that civilization, those people built incredible things and they knew what they were doing. I think they obviously knew, maybe we need to use vowels, but they decided not to. They knew what they were doing, and I believe if we do restore that language, we should do the same thing. And I dream of a time at which we study hieroglyphic and not Demotic, hieratic at school, because Demotic came later. It was the language of the streets. It's still derived from ancient Egyptian, but I do believe that ancient Egyptian, like hieroglyphs, and hieratic, which is cursive hieroglyphs, basically is just a faster way of writing in hieroglyphs. Instead of drawing all of the glyphs, you write in hieratic instead. So they look very similar, but the hieratic is just simpler. I do believe that that's what we are supposed to study at schools. I don't know why they're trying to teach us German and French. I mean, English, I get it. I'm speaking that language, and it is the number one language on the whole planet right now, so it is needed for life in general, to be able to work, to just like keep up with the advancements of the world right now. You need to be able to speak English and use it, write in it, and understand it, and all of that. Yeah, we need English, but we don't need German and French and Italian. Definitely not. It's not needed. I think what we do need is rebuilding and like reconnecting with our lost heritage. I don't think it's supposed to just be called ancient history. And our ancestors, they tried to give us ways of keeping our heritage and language. It's very important. It was very important to them that we keep going on the same, keep moving on the same path that they drew for us. Because first, it took them a very long time to create that civilization, to build what they built, to create that language. And it took them a very long time of recording everything that they did record. I mean, they wrote it on stone in ways that stood, I don't know what to call it, stood something of time. Like they survive to this day. And those monuments and artifacts went through a lot. And they are still standing. And they said we just studied this a couple weeks ago. And again, I just applied to school, so I haven't gotten that long time of studying, but I don't remember the sentence exactly, but it basically said that no matter what you go through, like our ancestors were talking to like us, no matter what you go through, Do not lose your identity and language. Never stop using those. Never stop living the way we used to live, and never stop speaking our language. The hieroglyphic language, the hieroglyphic, it's not the language. Now, ancient Egyptian language is something, and the hieroglyphic is the way it used to be written in it. So the hieroglyphic itself is not a language. It's just the written language. What I'm trying to say is the ancient Egyptian language is sacred, and it should be standing to this day. It should still be being, we should still be using it. And we should really try to restore it. And not just the language, again, the identity, like the way we used to live, the way we used to build our houses, the way we used to dress up, our style. That's our identity consists, like the word identity consists of so many different components. It's the way we used to live. It's the thing that I just said, the food we used to make. I'm sure some things did leak into our modern society or civilization, if you want to call it, but I don't think we have a civilization right now. We used to, and now we call it ancient. We are so lost right now, and I wish we could restore those two words, our lost identity and language. I wish we could restore them. I wish we could study them at school again, like seriously study them, to speak them. But a massive problem here is that we don't know how they used to speak. Though some ancient Egyptian words are still being used in our Arabic dialect in Egypt to this day. There's many examples, but none of them are on top of my head right now, and that page with the examples is not in front of me. But one example is mum, for example, which means food or eating. And there are other things, like this might sound a little childish because we usually use something like mum sarcastically, yeah. Not seriously, but there are many words that we use seriously, and they are a part of our dialect, but which is another sad thing, we don't study them at school, we speak them on the street, so they're part of our Masri dialect. The Arabic Masri dialect is different from the how do I say this? Like we have Ammiya, or what is called Masri outside of Egypt. We call it inside of Egypt Ammiya, which is the Egyptian accent, the Egyptian dialect that we speak with every day. That's different from the Arabic dialect that we study at schools, that we call that Fusha. I don't know what to call it in English, but that's basically like the grammatically correct Arabic dialect that kind of rhymed. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that those ancient Egyptian languages that did leak into our current dialect only leaked into Al-Ammiya, or Masri accent, or Masri dialect, or the dialect that we use on the street, but they did not leak into what we study at schools, which is why they're pretty lost. We only know them because we use them, we hear them on the street, we know them, but we don't study them. But I do believe that if we use those with what I talked about earlier, about how our DNA still has remains or remnants of ancient Egyptian in it, and we lean into that. Like for example, I don't actually have an ancient Egyptian word in front of me right now, but I do believe to be able to restore the way we used to speak, we have to, an Egyptian like me, I'm pretty good with languages, kind of. I mean, I taught myself English, and my accent is pretty good, not perfect, but pretty good right now. So if I could work on whatever in whatever institution that's trying to restore our ancient history. I don't even know if we have such an institution, but anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that me and some others like me who are pretty good with language, try to pronounce some ancient Egyptian words many consecutive times and a little fast, and whatever comes natural to my tongue is probably the correct pronunciation of the word that we used to pronounce it back in the day. And I mean, that's one of the things that we should use. That's one other resource that we can use with everything else that we've already found. And I do believe if we really try to restore it, this is gonna sound a little sci-fi, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. It feels like Egypt itself, like the land itself and our ancestors want us to restore our lost heritage. And if we do really work hard on it, we're gonna find more clues that will actually help us restoring it. How? I'm not sure. I mean, obviously we're not gonna find a voice recording of an ancient Egyptian person speaking. Wish we could though. Like I said, I mean, I've been rambling on about this, but the truth is, a part of me is excited that I'm studying this at school. And even though the exams are over and we're in like a break right now, before our second semester, is that how it's called? But anyway, I'm still trying to study ancient Egyptian, and I do wish I could work on restoring it. But even if there is an institution in Egypt that is working on this, I have a long time to get there because I'm 30 already. I'm pretty old, relatively, and I'm still in the first grade of secondary school. So I have 3 grades ahead of me, like the grade that I'm in the middle of right now, the first one, then the second and the third, and then I will have to go to college, and I don't even know if there's a college that could get me into that institution if it actually exists. If that institution exists, I don't know if a college exists that would graduating from which would get me into such institution. And that is when I would start working on restoring our lost heritage. So it will take me 7 years from now to just start working on that. But I wish I could start working on it now because I have so many ideas. I'm so excited and I absolutely love it. And there is another thing that I forgot to mention, which is like, I was saying from the very beginning, I do believe we can restore it. I just don't think we will. Because many Egyptians right now, give me a minute, because of how much hate there is in our society right now, it's gonna be very difficult for our government to actually restore our lost heritage. I don't believe that they still can, but this is another obstacle, and it's a major obstacle in front of them. Or in their way. That's an obstacle that's standing in the way of achieving this. So it's gonna take a very long time for us to do it, but I do believe we can. Starting with restoring the language first, not the lifestyle. The language first, and teaching it at schools. But yeah, it's gonna take a long time for us to restore it. If we actually do start now, it's gonna take a long time. But we also have like so many parts of our lost heritage that are outside of Egypt, so we need to get those back too, which is gonna be a huge hassle, and I don't think we will ever restore everything that's been lost, all the artifacts that were gone. Many of which sadly were sold by our own people. Again, they hate their ancestors. Many Egyptians hate their ancestors. They hate our government. Ah, God, man. I mean, I do believe our government is actually like they're doing their best, but this country has there's so many problems, and when you lose your identity like this, you have chaos. I mean, our culture is all over the place. So I don't even like. What I was saying is that many of these artifacts are outside of Egypt right now, were sold by Egyptians, and obviously a lot of them were taken away by occupants. The English invasion, the French, Napoleon. Uh, they're preserving a lot of it out there, but we do need to get that back, but not now, because we won't be able to really protect it right now or preserve it here as well as they are preserving it out there. I do believe again that the very first step of restoring our lost heritage should be restoring the language first, and then we could get our artifacts back, put them back into place, restoring our temples and every little thing that was left to us by our ancestors, restore it fully and completely and make sure it's well protected, preserved, and yeah, that reconnect, like put Egypt back on its track, on the tracks that were left to us by our ancestors, the way it was meant to be. Because yeah, it's sad how lost we are right now, and we had one of the like not one of the we had the very best civilization on the planet to this day. They did things that still confuse scientists to this day. With math, for example, they use this 2 out of 3 thing. I mean, I'm not that great at math, even basic math, so I don't know how to explain this problem. But they did a lot of math things that scientists don't understand to this day. And we were great with, how do I say this in English? Astrology. We were great with this too. We were so advanced and so great at so many different sciences and so many aspects of life, and our language is what led to every major language on the planet right now. All of them were I mean, obviously a lot of work and a lot of steps were led to the development of those languages, but all of those steps started here, from Egypt. We need to take that back, man. We need to restore that, but it's gonna take a lot of work, and I wish I could do a lot of that work right now, because I'm not getting any younger, and it would take me 7 years, like I said, to just start. If I could start at all, if there's any chance of for me to start working on restoring it, it would take me 7 years to get there, to get to the start. 7 years, so I'll be 37. So and it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna take a very long time. So I will die before we restore even the language. I will be dead before the restoring the very first component. So imagine how much time it's going to take of us to restore everything if we start now. Jesus. God. So yeah, as much as I'm excited about this, I'm also really saddened, and I live in a little village too, so there's man, talking about how people in a little rural, not rural, urban village like this, they don't have any morals. Is that a word? Most of them are not that well educated. it's a it's a different topic and it's pretty complicated. But yeah, it again reminds me of how great we used to be and how bad we are right now, how lost we are. And many of the Egyptian people hate our lost heritage, so they don't even want to restore it. They're not gonna help restoring it, and they're even going to try to hinder the process of restoring it, which makes me think maybe there is an institution or like something in Egypt that is working on restoring our lost heritage, but it's doing it in secret because uh, to not I don't know how to say it, to not to I'm sure you already know what I'm trying to say here, but I have to still say it, to not have to deal with the objections of people, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So maybe they are like maybe we already restored a lot of our lost heritage, but we're not gonna release it to the public unless the work is done or something like that. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I will keep trying to learn ancient Egyptian. I'll keep working on this. And I want to make more videos because I really like it, and there's a lot that I want to talk about, like our ancient Egyptian history, languages, games. There's so much in here that I want to get out. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say in this video.